Lara Williams, and this is Sonographers After Dark. I am here with Debbie Dulin. Debbie, it is so good to have you here, and I just want to hear a little bit from you. You know, I love your podcast, and so you are an inspiration to so many people. So I want to hear about all things Debbie, right? It's all about the frequency, and it's all about Debbie. So Debbie, let's talk. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in that, what motivated you to start that podcast, and then moving forward, what you have on your new horizons as well.
Well, thank you for having me, Lara. It's always a joy to join with another sonographer in the advancement of sonography in general. So thank you for having me as a guest. What are some of the things that I think your question, I think you had several. So the first was, why did I decide to start a podcast? It's all about the frequency. I have been scanning for over 20 years and I became an empty nester, and I decided I would travel as an ultrasound tech. And part of the reason for learning to travel is that I didn't want to stay in place long enough and become a curmudgeon. And I thought I probably learn a lot and have to keep up on my skills pretty well and pretty quick as a traveler. So I did branch out and start traveling right before COVID, unfortunately. So
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. But I've been traveling off and on for about 5 years now, and I do like it. It does bring some challenges, as any traveling position does, but it does keep you on your on your game, right? And on your skills. And you kind of have to have some thick skin if you're going to do this full time. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I recommend it if you have thick skin. And if you're, even when you're confident, you have to really be able to hold your own. But what caused me to want to have a podcast is that it just seems like there's a whole bunch of us out there, but we don't talk to each other. Like the East Coast doesn't know what the West Coast is doing. And we all have these great ideas, and we're all like heroes in our own little world. But what if we had a place that we could share our voices and share our experiences, and people could hear that and reach out to them if they had a question or they needed a mentor in something or anything of that nature? That this would just bring us together as a society of ultrasound and give us a larger voice.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's true. You know, I've been in some unique positions in my work with industry that I have traveled across the country and had experience from East to West Coast and even other countries working with sonographers. And you're right, you know, there isn't a lot of connection outside of some of the societal meetings and those kinds of things, but not everybody goes to that, right? So then where do you get that cohesiveness from? And so, yeah, I applaud you for what you've built there, and can only hope that this is half as successful as yours. So, yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
I think that thanks. That mentorship piece, though, I think that that's huge, right? You know, we've been in the field for a long time. And so, you know, I think that there are some pathways for getting into the field. And then there's pathways for what do you do when you don't want to become, as you said, a curmudgeon and be, you know, that person who's just kind of set in their ways, and you've been scanning for a long time, your shoulders maybe in a little bit of pain, you know. So I've been exploring lately some of these different pathways in ultrasound and how we can really step up our skill sets so that we are better mentors, better sonographers overall. And what do some of those pathways look like? I know you have some things coming on your future horizons that are exciting, and I think that are also very helpful for sonographers who just really want to excel in what they do.
Yeah, Laura, I part of what I've learned also in traveling is that there's 1,000 different ways to do the same thing. And so I also know that there's no official training for high risk OB. So my specialty is high risk OB. Yours is adult echo, I believe, along with a whole vast, we both, I think,
A few
a
things. Yeah.
spectrum of things that we do. Um, but I thought, what if we had a training that we could go online, and when I'm training somebody or onboarding somebody, they can have a baseline of understanding of how does a high risk perinatal lab work? Who's part of the team? What are their roles in that team? What happens when I run into this, a spina bifida? What do I do? How do I process it? What information are they looking for? You know, um, so learn until you run into it, right? And
Right.
you're running that room like, oh my God, I got spina bifida. What do I do? And then you're going back in several times, and that kind of raises the attention and the anxiety of the parents sometimes. And so I thought, what if we had something that people could listen to? They were multiple short video clips that they could listen to and have at least a base understanding of what do I do when I run into this omphalocele or gastroschisis or spina bifida or any kind of abnormality. And working with a maternal fetal medicine is very different than working with a radiologist. So,
Completely. Yeah.
two different animals there, and so maternal fetal medicine is going to want a lot more specific information. Maternal fetal medicine takes, I define high risk OB as looking for millimeter structures that occur in less than 1% of the population.
Yeah.
So, as you know, if we're not on the radar to look for something, we can walk right past it and not even know it's there, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. You can miss it easily.
for these millimeter structures, what are the fine tune hints or tips to looking or finding polydactyly, right?
Yeah.
Or just little things that I've learned along the way. I'm certainly no expert. I just have a lot of experience that I like to share. And I'm sure other people will chime in and we can include some of that as well. This is high risk OB 1.0. So we're just kind of getting started. I'm already working on some upgrades to it, but it will be coming out November 1st.
That's
And
awesome. Congratulations.
thank you. I just
You're
hope
welcome.
it'll be um, something that people can listen to and sharpen up their game, in some
Oh, yeah.
way. Have a better understanding. What's the process? Why is advanced maternal age a thing, right?
Right.
And why does
Yeah.
it not such of a thing now, right? And how genetic testing has evolved,
Yes.
right?
So
And
significantly over the last decade to 2 decades. So many
right,
changes
so
there.
changed and different levels of hormones and things are not looked at as often anymore because of the different genetic testing. So, trying to review some of that and yeah, just trying to give everybody little hints and tips of how to handle some of the most common things that happen in maternal fetal medicine. And then I'm going on a deeper dive on some other disease processes, trying to understand sickle cell and why it's important to test the father, right?
Yeah.
And trying to understand diabetes, right? The two different kinds and how does that affect pregnancy? So really kind of diving deep. So if you're just getting into high risk OB, I think it'll be helpful. But if you've been in for a while, I think it'll still give you some nuggets of
Yeah. That
things
refresher.
that'll,
Yeah.
yeah, help your practice
Yeah.
grow.
I think it's so easy to get comfortable as a sonographer and just kind of going through the routine, right? Going through the motions that you do every day. And you can kind of get stuck in this little rut of just being in that comfort zone and comfort level instead of really pushing yourself to learn and adapt and grow. And so I think that online, access to courses such as yours and such as some of the things that I offer as well, this helps to bridge that gap where, you don't have to take time off work to go to a conference. While conferences are great, we love the SDMS, we love the ASE, we love attending those events, and there is absolute value in doing that. It's not
Absolutely.
always something that everybody can do because everybody can't get up and walk, go to the SDMS conference. Someone has to stay back and scan, right? And so,
Right.
you know, this allows for that bridging of that gap, I think, so that we can offer the best care we can to our patients, because it is easy to become stagnant in what we do. And while yes, we have our CMEs that we do, and that obviously helps us along the way, not all of those CMEs really push us to be a better sonographer. And so I think that this is something that really helps to focus and narrow that track for the OBGYN sonographer who wants to be better at what they do. So kudos to you. I think that that's awesome, and having the online platform for that is great.
Thank you. Yeah, I know I met you at STMS. Well, I didn't meet you, but I heard of while I was in a different session. But I got connected with you because I went to an STMS conference.
Yeah,
And, just a little plug for our professional conferences and organization. Um, I've I've learned over the years to appreciate them so much more, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
uh, when I've sat into people who have been doing this for 10 or 20 years longer than I have, and they're so willing to just give anything they have to help me,
Yeah,
right? And I almost feel like I almost have a responsibility to give back like they have given to me, right? Like they've stood the ground, they've held the space, they've made their speeches, they've, given to the community. And maybe now it's our turn, your and I's turn to kind of help out and start giving back to the community. And our ways are going to look a little different, right? Like they
they
did it
have
by
to.
going to conference, giving talks, and we're going to do it by podcasts and online and schools and different things like that. So I'm excited in our profession because all of a sudden I just feel like things are starting to blossom and bloom, right? Another sonographer who started Echo Mentor, who's
Hmm.
another great program for mentoring. And so I think there's another Megan Mead who does fetal echo. And
I
she
think I've
has a
seen her name. I
voice.
don't know her, but I have seen her name around
Yeah,
as well.
talked to
Yeah,
her.
and
She's a
Lachelle Jones, I'll
man.
be
I've heard
interviewing
about.
her. She'll be on a future podcast with me as well. She does high risk
Yeah,
fetal echo, and I do fetal echo as well. And even though, and I think this is the key, right? So it's easy to sit back and say, "Oh, no, what you do a little bit of what I do," and be put off by that, rather than reaching out and bridging the gap and collaborating together. Because you and I are stronger if we can offer things together than if you sit back in your corner and I sit back in mine and we don't collaborate together, because you bring so much wealth of knowledge that maybe I don't have as much in certain areas, and I bring something you don't have. And same thing with
right,
Lachelle and, like you said, Megan Mead. Yes, they're both doing fetal echo talks and education, and so do I. But at the same time, we all can contribute different things to this field. So, I think again, it's helpful to bridge that gap together and collaborate together where we can. And that just shows the strength of our community, right? And the strength of what we do, because we could just be those petty people who sit back and say, "Oh, she's teaching what I teach, I don't want to talk to her." you know
right,
and that's
right.
easy to be petty. And so, I think that when we bridge the gap, this is where people can grow and where we can grow. I know I can learn from you as well. So, I look
Well,
forward to that opportunity also.
Yeah. And, I think sometimes it takes me hearing something over and over again before I get it.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody says it this way and someone else comes in and says it another way. And it's like, I got it. You know, I was at us not this past year, but before, and someone gave a talk about a heart anomaly. She was a pediatric echo giving us about something, explain something in a way that all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I got it. I
It's like
just
the
now got
blinders
it.
fell off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it now makes sense how it's put together or how it works, right? And I thought,
Yeah.
man, I thought I had it, but the way she said it just really clicked for me.
Yep.
So I think that's true for you can hear it 5 times and get something different out of each time.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
I think we're I think we all have value, like you said, and we all bring something to the table. And gone, I'm hoping that you and I can and others can forge the way of gone are the days of I need to be better than you and I don't want to show you what I'm doing because I need to be better than you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I think
Yeah.
we've all kind of faced a few people with that understanding or that feeling, and I'm hoping to like eradicate that, right?
Yeah. Knock
Like
those walls down because,
there's
yeah.
enough for everybody to go around. Nobody needs
Yep.
to be taking from someone else. We're
Exactly.
all in this together, right?
Yeah, people will
So
learn from you if you fit their style, and people will learn from me if I fit their style, and that's just how that goes.
right,
We need to knock the walls down of division and stand together to help the community overall, because I do think that there's maybe some lack in skill sets, and I don't want to say that to degrade sonographers coming out in the field that are new, but I do think that somewhere along the way some of the physics have been kind of maybe dumbed down a little bit because of some of the AI technologies that we have available to us now, which are great and wonderful, but we still have to know the basics, right? And so I think that
right.
we can help influence that next generation of sonographers, and that's my goal. That's what I want. And like you said, the societies that we align with, SDMS, SVU, ASE, all of these organizations, AIUM even, all of these organizations really help to propel the industry and the field of sonography further. And that's what we want to see. They are also advocates, right? So not only
Right.
do I think that individual representatives of those organizations help wherever we need help, the organizations as a whole also advocate for the profession. They advocate for billing codes. They advocate for our professional fees not being tanked by Medicare. So there's so much that goes into those organizations that a lot of sonographers who don't see behind the scenes, they don't know that that's what these organizations are doing on our behalf. So, yeah, I think, just kind of
Take time for them to be
say that
able to
again.
do that. It does take time for
Hmm.
them to get the research and get the studies done. And SCMS
Yeah,
came out with um, a talk this year at SDMS was about economics and
yeah,
how now they do have all the data in order to prove the injuries that we incur as ultrasound techs, right?
yeah,
And so it's just a matter of being able to put it together in the right way that can be presented. And I think that's going to go a long way. There was a study done in Tree that's super helpful for letting us know this is how many scans you should be doing per day in a given specialty, right? So if you're
yeah.
doing 25 ultrasounds in a day, that's not safe,
No,
right? And
not
now
at
we
all.
have a study. Now we have a
Yeah,
study to prove that that's not safe, right?
yeah,
So when human resources hold of studies and someone challenges that, then we'll have more in our favor because we've told you this was presented to you that
Right.
this is harmful to me, and you're still demanding more work. So I think we're going to go far. It's good to see that we're going to advance our career in so many
Yeah.
ways in regard to that, right? And
Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
love had a huge question and answer time, where they wanted to hear from the people that were attending. What are some good, and man, they had a ton of real great ideas, that came up. So they're open to hear us and put it forward. So
Yeah, I love how those organizations really do look for feedback from the communities that they serve, right? It's not just about, holding a conference or what have you. It is truly about getting the feedback of the individual sonographer, and your voice matters. And I think that's, one thing that your podcast, hopefully my podcast, will also kind of help within our field in our industry, is to show that your voice matters, right? And so, my voice matters, your voice matters, the voice of the new sonographer just starting out matters. And we don't want them to get so stuck that they're injured. And so, speaking up for yourself, that's one thing. Also, advocating for yourself is so important. And if you don't know what you don't know, that's hard to do. And so to be able to
right,
advocate for your role within your organization and making sure you're not getting stuck in a corner somewhere with a table that doesn't move and a chair that, doesn't support
right,
you, you have to know what what is expected in the field and the industry standards so that you can advocate for yourself. So I think, voices like ours hopefully will help those situations and those sonographers really be able to speak up for themselves too.
absolutely. I've always said that we're smaller and right. So, so most of the departments I've been a part of are relatively small compared to nursing, right?
Yeah.
So nursing, they're huge in numbers. So if they decide to go on strike, like that's a big impact to the hospital, right? Whereas
Yep.
ultrasound, I think it would be a big impact, but maybe not as big as nursing, right?
Right.
And I think what we don't make up for in number, we make up for in unity, right? If we can
Yeah.
all get on the same page and we can all say, yes, I'm hurting
Right.
after doing 25 patients or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Um, to advocate not for ourselves even, but for other people, right? And
Yeah.
to do it together jointly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about the program that you are going to offer. You said it's starting November 1st. So how will people find you?
You can find me by going to the ultrasoundinstitute.org. And there is a platform, and you can click on the OB link, and that will take you to a high risk OB training and sign up there, and it'll download right to you, and it'll walk you week by week. It's about weeks long. And
How
so
many
each
weeks?
week, another set of small groups that you watch and learn. You're free to take notes, and there's some downloads of forms just to get you started if you'd like to use the forms or other things. There's all sorts of resources that you can go to and reference. So yeah, 10 weeks of
Okay.
some good stuff.
Awesome. So again, that is the ultrasoundinstitute.org. It starts November 1st. Is that right?
November 1st, yes.
Exciting. So OBGYN sonographers, if you are looking to promote, your skills within your organization, then go find Debbie and the ultrasoundinstitute.org. So yeah.
Oh,
So would you recommend that for someone who maybe doesn't know OBGYN ultrasound, or do you think that they need to start out with a basis in OBGYN ultrasound?
well, I think most of us, this is really primarily for someone who's already an ultrasound, right? And so most of the time you do have a basic understanding of ultrasound. So if you're in radiology, if you're at an OBGYN office just doing general, I think this is always a good tool to have to kind of up your game or to just aware, oh, I didn't know we could do it like this or we could do it like that, right?
Yeah.
I've always said that um, some people come to high risk OB because someone in low risk saw something that wasn't normal.
Right.
Um, but sometimes, I scanned a patient who came to high risk for something, and we found a club foot. And they're like, well, the other ultrasound, they didn't find a club foot. Why didn't they? Or, why should we trust you and not them? And I said, well, their scan is really a little bit different than our
Hmm.
scan. They
Yeah.
want to know there's two legs, there's two femur bones, there's 2 feet. But we're looking at the condition of those bones and those positions of the feet and different things where we get very particular about our gain settings to look at digits and toes and different things such as that. So we really get into the nitty gritty. And sometimes I tell patients, oftentimes you'll hear maternal fetal medicine ultrasound techs debating with physicians about millimeters, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's 1.87. Well, no, I think it's 1.53, Well,
Yeah. And
if you're
those millimeters matter.
talking about a point 0.3 difference,
Yeah. It matters for diagnostic
So,
criteria. So yeah.
right. So we do get kind of nitty gritty and passionate about what we do and what we see and the trust that we build with our physicians. And so, yeah, it can get kind of heated because we're dealing with people's babies, right? And they get very defensive about that and wanting to know everything. And so there's a psychological part that I address even with that, as far as, we're all human, you
Hmm.
know, and to go from sometimes emotionally, how do you regulate yourself, right? Without
Yeah.
getting this cold hard heart, right?
Hmm.
Because you go from a fetal demise to a spina bifida to, oh, I've got twins, to, somebody who just got pregnant from IVF to, you're like emotionally can be all over the board if you're matching it with the patient, right? And so, how to manage that, how to show up as your best self, in order to be able to manage that, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not always our best selves, right? I've had quite a few health dilemmas over these past years, and it has really been a huge challenge for me to show up as a traveler on top of it as my best self. And so, what are some tricks of the trade in order to just be able to do that? A lot of us are mothers and we have children at home and we're not sleeping all every night, because we're moms.
Yeah.
And so I think I had one day that I worked in a lab and there was 5 of us, and one had a parent that was having trouble, and another one had a miscarriage, and another one had a sick kid, and somebody else had was sore because she was in a car accident or something. And I'm like, here we're all showing up today to give our everything to somebody else when we're
Hmm.
all in need of help. You
Yeah.
know, like that is so freaking amazing that we're still willing to give, even
Hmm.
though there's places in us that really need to be given to,
Yeah. It's
right?
hard. That's the human side, like you said, that is very, it can be very challenging. I've been through a lot of tragedy in my life, I've had a lot of health crises. There was a point in 2013 I almost died, and I was a business owner, so I was scanning. I had to scan around that. Like, I had a contract where we did pediatric echoes 24/7 at the time, and so I'm scanning little neonatal babies. And in 2009, I had a daughter. I've had two daughters pass away, but in 2009, I had an infant pass away. She died a couple hours after birth, and that was really hard. How do you go back to work after that, scanning little babies, right? Like, that for me was such an internal challenge. And how do you find in yourself the strength when you are going through such a tremendous challenge, but you still have to show up for your patients?
Right.
And you have to get yourself to that place where you do have, and it's not a strength where you just ignore everything and just push on with no emotion, because if you do that for too long, you're going to crash,
Right.
you just will. You won't be able to survive. Trust me. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I do
So
too. In a
been
different way.
there, bought that t-shirt.
You know?
Like, I can make the t-shirt myself. So yeah. But this is the human part where we are struggling with our own humanity and our own issues, our own life struggles. I had to show up walking through a divorce, right? Like, you still got to show up, and you got
Right.
to show up to the best of your ability and not let that patient down in the middle of your own struggle. And
Right.
that's hard. That's hard to do.
Right.
But this is where I think, like you said, learning the strength of taking your own self-care to the degree that you have to prioritize your own health and your own mental health as well, because if you don't, your patients suffer.
Well, one thing that your patients will walk all over you,
Yeah.
right? Is one thing.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
so learning how to set expectations and boundaries and within the scope of the practice that you're in,
Right.
um, according to what they're allow and what they don't allow, um, and then be able to take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Without feeling like you're the hero. I'm going to do it all, or the
Right.
victim.
You
Oh
can't.
my gosh, I can't believe, or the
Yeah.
villain, well, screw this. I'm just going to do blah, 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 So I've been all three,
Yep. Me too. Me too, for sure.
we show up with as our true authentic selves without having to be those three, right? Those codependent,
The
hero
mask.
villain kind of thing. And
Yeah.
without getting a hard heart, right? So that's the other thing is we just end up, you know, showing up, okay, yeah, we're not too excited for you. Moving on, next,
Right.
I didn't want to show up like that either. And
No.
so um
It's
learning
this fine line of empathy, right? You have to have empathy, but also have boundaries, right? You got to have both. And you also have to bring your professionalism into that. You can't be, breaking down completely in front of your patients. I mean, there's moments where you can cry with your patient. If you have, I've had a field demise I found at 36 weeks. Like, I cried with that patient. That's what she needed in that moment, but you can't be crying all over your patients all the time either.
right,
Problem.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knowing how to hold space for them, but also how to take care of you, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know that the medical field is really set up for teaching you how to take care of you.
No,
So
it's not.
we kind of have to teach the medical field how to take care of us, right?
Yeah.
And how to do it respectfully and
Yeah.
consistently
Yeah.
and not that we're perfect, right? I'm in a tough situation right now where I'm at, and um it can be tough some days learning how to take care of yourself and how to go to the bathroom and take a breath and
Hmm.
okay,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
learning
Just
how to
going to the bathroom.
right,
Just
learning how
going
to
to the bathroom. Yeah.
right, bring the joy. Like you have to create that. You get to. Somebody said to me, I recently got a business mentor, and they said that The power plant doesn't have power, it creates power to give out, right?
Yeah.
And so the same with our joy. We have to create the joy to give out. And
Yeah.
we have to learn to create it even when our world feels like it's crashing down sometimes.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
I think everywhere you go, there's probably someone who isn't joyful, right? And you're
right,
gonna encounter that. You're gonna have that one sonographer or one physician or what have you that just doesn't have a good attitude, right? But you have to still bring your best you in the middle of that and be able to just make that environment not be catty and not be, a constant place of animosity. Because if you allow that negative behavior to affect you and what you bring to your patients, it's just going to ruin your day. And who wants that?
so how do you protect yourself, right, from that kind of a thing? I have relationships outside of work that I think, oh, I don't want to hang around that too long, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
because that just really brings me down.
Yep.
That I love them. I love that person to death. And they've given me a ton in life and supported me. But man, I just can't do it. Right. Like, I really have to learn how to finesse that relationship where they're still a part of my life, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to surround myself with that energy. So I
Yeah.
think this is for work, right? Learning how to be able to protect your peace,
Hmm.
as Trent Shelton says,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. No, that's good stuff. And that just boils down to learning your own personal boundaries, and that takes a lot of self development. I'm
Yes.
I won't say my age. I'm up there. I'm 46, and
You are
I'll say
young.
it.
You are
I'm
young.
46, and I have learned over the years. I used to just kind of give out to everybody, and I would run ragged and frazzled. I was running a couple of multiple businesses at the same time, and I totally burnt myself out because I was all over the place, and I never took time to replenish me. And so I have learned in my older self now at 46 that is priority, and if I don't have that, I have nothing. If I don't have my health, I have nothing. And I like I said, I almost died in 2013, and that devastated me. It devastated my business, it devastated everything, because I just wasn't prepared for that type of hit to my life. And
Right.
so yeah, I've had a long comeback. Here it is, what, 12 years later, and I think I'm still
Coming
coming
back,
back, but yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, and
So,
I know other people that are fellows in SDMS, right? And they've had their dreams shattered, and yet they still show up. And they show up in
yeah,
a different way, in a different place, but they're still showing up. And I think, you know what? I want to be around that person. I
yeah,
want to be around the person who still got up after someone just totally devastated their dreams,
yeah.
or something terrible happened to them and they still rose from the ashes, right?
Mhm.
I want to join arms and link arms with people who know how to get back up,
Yep,
right?
because you're gonna fall down. Life's
Yeah,
gonna kick your knees out from underneath you somewhere, some way. It just is what it is, right? It's the
right,
reality of the world we live in. But what do you do with that? What do you do with that? And in ultrasound, what do you do with that when you fail your registry? What, keep going, right?
right.
When
Take
you take it
right,
again. Yep. Or when things don't work out and a doctor's yelling at you, because it happens, what do you do in
right.
that moment? You pick yourself back up, you learn from it, and you keep scanning. you know? Yeah.
And
So
learn how to have hard and tough conversations, and being
yeah.
willing to have hard and tough conversations, right?
Hmm.
And surround yourself with people who have had the hard, tough conversations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, to really support you through that, right? Because sometimes those hard, tough conversations go well, but
Hmm.
sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And confrontation isn't a bad word. You know, I think that confrontation can have some negative connotations to it, but confrontation just means that you're not going to ignore a situation. That's all. And confrontation should not be in a approach that is abusive or any other type of negative way. It should be in a constructive approach to bring resolution. And so, if you can face every confrontation in a desire to learn and in a desire to bring resolution, then even if that other person doesn't have that mindset, you can still grow from that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I know there's things that have happened to me even several years ago that I'm still kind of reminiscing about. Like where could I have shown up better? How could I
Yeah.
have done this different? Right. Monkey brain just kind of goes to some of these
Yeah.
situations all the time. Right.
I'm glad it's not
And
just me.
no, and so you learn from, but you teach your monkey brain to like sit down, shut, like this is who I am.
Yep.
Powerful. I'm smart. I can figure this out. I
Yep.
do have a heart of wanting to help move forward and to encourage people to pull. And I think when people get to know your heart and what your real motive is, and things, then it becomes busy in the medical field, just putting stuff out and working and working and working. You don't have time for that, right? You don't have time to really
Yeah.
get to know someone and what makes them tick and what's going on in their life at the time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
especially as a traveler, because you're in and you're out and you move on, and so building relationships, while you get a lot of, you can build good relationships as a traveler, I believe. Um, and you can take them with you so that you're building relationships all over the country, but they're not going to necessarily be as deep at first, right? Because
right.
you are moving around. That's the reality of the role. And so, I think building relationships is always key in life. And for me, I would say that the biggest investment I've ever made in my own professional career, personal relationships as well, is I hired a mentor. I hired a business and relationship mentor. And this was back in like 2012. And I followed that mentor for quite some time and worked with her for a while, several years. And it helped me to be able to understand relationships better, personality types better, how to speak to different personalities. It's helped me in sales. It's helped me in business. It's helped me in my marriage. It's helped me in my own relationship with my son. Like, and so I think that we discount that maybe we might need help in these areas, but not everyone, it doesn't come natural for everybody. And so I think when you get someone else who can kind of hold your hand and make you a better you, that is, there's nothing like it. And you are worth investing in for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, yes.
Yep.
I agree wholeheartedly. I have done the same. I recently invested in a business mentorship. To learn better business skills and just be around people who are in business, struggling and doing the grind like you and I are doing.
Hmm.
And I almost decided to kind of stop that. And I went to um, another meeting with them, and I thought, no, I need to have this in my life. I need these people in my life
Yeah.
who are still doing, still struggling, still trying to, you know, uh, be successful like everybody else. And
Yeah.
it's important to have your people, right?
Yep.
Especially if you're a traveler
Yeah.
or an entrepreneur. I think it's important to have people that you can go to and say,
Mhm.
oh my God, I just had this week, or oh my God, I just said this on whatever, or I had a horrible, presentation and all the way I thought, or
Right.
whatever, And I think you need people in your life to say, you know what? I think it was better than what you thought it was, and help you move past it and through it instead of getting stuck in that
Yep.
place, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So people,
And people
yes.
who are
Mhm.
like-minded to what you are doing as well, because I think, and this comes back to basics, right? This is such basic thing things, but we don't always consider it, and sometimes we forget what we've been taught as a kid. Right? And your circle matters. Who you put in your circle matters, because you are like the five people you hang out with the most. So if you take a
Yeah,
look around the people that are around you and you don't want to be like them, find a different circle.
right.
Yep.
Or if someone's complaining all the time at work,
Yeah.
get out of that circle,
Yeah.
stop,
Maybe hang out
learn
with
how to
someone else.
learn how to change the subject, learn how to go to a different room, learn how
Yep.
to have a different conversation or have something else in common.
Right.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
easy. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying there's a way, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you find the people who are wanting to make a difference in the world, you'll find, you let go of one friend and you get a little lonely for a while, but I think the universe brings you somebody else that meets you there, right? I think there's someone else in the universe that comes to fill that hole, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so
So,
for me, I believe in God, and I know that God's hand has always been on my life, and so I see it as he'll bring whatever's missing, right? Whatever those missing pieces are. For me, that's my belief, and so yeah, I agree with you completely, and so I think this has been a great talk. It kind of shifted in a way that I think neither one of us really intended, but it's been great,
right.
and I
I
think that
love
it's the reality of what we need in our world, let alone our ultrasound departments. Right? So be the
right,
positive change you want to see in the world and in the hospital you work in, or wherever you
right.
are, the office. Yeah, you don't have to just sit there as part of the gossip conversation. You can put a stop to that and say, okay, ask a different question, shift the conversation to something different. You have the power to do that. So awesome. Well,
Yeah, and going to STMS or having these friends, like you said, really empowers you, right? And it
yes,
empowers you with new different ideas, it empowers you with other people that you can connect to and speak into their lives and them into your life so that you
yeah,
don't have to sit around the water hole talking and gossiping and whatever because you're
right.
busy,
Yeah.
helping somebody else.
Yeah,
So,
you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that person on the job. And here's the other reality of the world we live in. Ultrasound is a small world. Everybody knows everybody. It,
yes.
it's like the, 5 degrees of Kevin Bacon and how you're related to him. Everybody knows everybody in ultrasound, So if if you become that negative gossiper person, that's who the reputation you're building in this community. You don't want that. That will follow you everywhere you go. And so just
It
know
will
that
follow you
the
too. I think you can change it too. So if you do have a
agree.
bad reputation or you've had a bad experience with someone or a bad exchange, right?
Mhm.
There's two people on both sides of that, right? So I heard someone talking about me the other day and I thought, "Oh, I wonder if I should call them." And I thought, "No, it's really none of their business," right? Like they're just passing on what they might have heard and they only heard one side of it. So
Yeah,
it's not worth talking about, right? You know?
right.
So
Fighting your
I think
battles, picking your battles.
battles, like, I don't worry what people think about me because if you know me, I hope that you my intentions and my what I work to strive for, right? In
Yeah.
my life. So, and I think, I'm not a perfect person either. And I think that's the other gift of ultrasound, right? Is being
Mhm.
honest with your doctor. I didn't see that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Being able to say, I don't know. Oh, no,
yeah,
I didn't do that. Right. And that builds integrity, that builds relationships. Oh,
yeah,
I didn't show up as my best self then, or for that job, or for this. Right.
yeah,
Like that's where the integrity comes in, is when you're able to be honest with yourself and with others that, oh, yeah, I forgot to do that. Let me go fix that. Or let me go do this. Or let me go da 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 da. Right.
yeah.
So I think that's another lesson that we can learn in ultrasound is we're trying to build these relationships with the patients to trust us. But what are we trying to do to build our relationships with each other so that other can trust, that we
Yeah.
can teach other, right?
Yeah. Yep. Are they going to trust that if they come and ask you about their images and you're not going to go knock them and badmouth them to the rest of the team, that you're going to help mentor them without judgment, without fear of you kind of, putting them out there and hanging them out to dry, right? And I think that's also the responsibility of a mentor as well, is that you mentor without judgment, you know? And sometimes that's hard. That can be difficult.
Well, I think it's part of taking the shame out of it, right? I
Yeah.
remember a
Yep.
new sonographer coming in, and you're so freaking nervous and scared, and you're trying to remember all this stuff, and you're trying to remember to do everything right. And she's scanning this patient, and she's like, "Well, I can't do this, that, and the other." And I go in, and there's no heartbeat, right?
Mm.
And I remember coming out of there and putting my arm around her and like, I've been there, I've done that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yep.
when everybody starts out, we've all done this. So if you can't be honest, if you can't be vulnerable to say, shake it off, this is not who
Yeah.
you are, won't ever do it again. I promise you, it happened to me and I never did it again, right? Like you put
You learn from
the
those
plate in
mistakes.
place and you learn
Yeah.
from it.
Yep. Yeah. I
So
mean,
hopefully getting rid of any kind of shame, right? Not shaming anybody for not knowing something or not doing something, right?
right. Yeah.
Or
Maybe they haven't been
because we've
taught
all
or,
done
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was probably 6 months out of school. I missed a renal cell carcinoma. I never missed one again, but I missed a renal
right,
cell carcinoma. It was on his CT, and I didn't look at the CT before I scanned him. That was on me.
right.
I learned
Yep,
from that. After that time, every single time, I would review any imaging that they had anywhere before
right.
scanning. But I made that mistake and I missed it. I knew something was not quite right with the kidney, like it
Yeah,
was a little funky, but I totally missed it. So, and the
yeah,
radiologist was so kind. He was a very good radiologist. He was so kind. He could have ripped me a new one, but he didn't. He pulled me aside and he was like, "Hey, this patient's already had a CT. Did you look at it?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Let me show you." And he walked me through. And so it was a learning experience for me that wasn't shameful. Yes, I felt ashamed and I felt
right,
horrible that I missed this. Like I was kicking myself for weeks and just replaying it and going back through the scenario in my head and how I could have done it different, but I can't change what happened. All I can do is move forward and change my habits moving forward, and that's what I did. So yeah.
and that's the gift, right? Is that we have a chance to change. We have the choice to change, right? And
Yep.
so, yeah, it's a joy to be a part of a profession that um we can do that. We can show up different. We can show up better. You know,
Yep. Every day.
we can show up in a lot of different
Yeah.
ways. And when we do mess up, we can always do it better the next day, right?
Yep. And that's the goal. I want to be better tomorrow than what I was today. And if I can
Right.
say that, then I'm good. I'm making progress. Now, obviously some things you got to progress a lot faster than others. But
Right.
for as long as you are improving, it's a step in the right direction. So yeah. All right. Well, we are out of time. So I want to just say thank you so much for joining me. This has been an excellent conversation. And I really appreciate the skill level that you bring, your spirit of excellence in everything that you do, and your voice within the ultrasound community. I thank you for that, for just really leading the way for others. And so again, check out the ultrasoundinstitute.org. Don't forget, November 1st, that drops. This has been another episode of Sonographers After Dark. My name is Lara Williams and Debbie Dulin from It's All About the Frequency. I will see you next time. Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you.
All right.